Hello. Well, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. I'd like to see us change that to a day of romance. I'm all for a day of romance. The commercial part, I think we all would like to see go bye-bye. So before I get into my thing on romance, just about Valentine's Day, I highly recommend that if you do feel that it's a commercial machine now that doesn't serve you, or also sees, as many of us do, how it also has a negative effect on a lot of people, negative conditioning. If they don't have their Valentine's or love in their life on that day, then it could be quite depressing. So you got that side too. But so several reasons we could let it go. So I think the best way I would recommend is just don't, if you can help it, don't buy commercial things. And we can also start calling it something else, calling it Romance Day, or the Day of Romance, or Love Day. So basically what I'm saying is, have fun with Valentine's Day if you want, but if you'd like to be part of the change while you're enjoying it, then you might go about your own ways of transforming Valentine's Day for yourself and for others. Anyway, so that's Valentine's Day, but now what I want to talk about, it's a long time coming, and that is romance in the light worker circles. Now what I'm going to talk about really applies to everyone, anyone and everyone. But I also want to zero in on something because it's close to me. I see it and I've experienced it. And I think we need to look at it from a different perspective. I don't think we're seeing a big picture, a lot of us, as a whole. So I think it's good if we can look at it as a whole. And when I say light worker, that could be anybody. I mean, it just means anybody who's into spirituality or self-growth, who wants to be the change in the world. Anybody who's really actively awakening to themselves and to the world, and wants to live their life, fully, and explore themselves and explore the world, and is open to the transforming process and the shifting processes that are happening right now. So really I say light workers, but that's a very limiting label, but we don't really have a symbol for all of us. But basically anyone who's in any kind of related spiritual or even health and body wellness circles, sometimes we're called like-minded people, whatever you want to call it, but we'll say light workers for now. But you get what I'm saying. So here's the phenomenon. Here's the phenomenon that I've experienced myself a couple times, and but I see it constantly, and in the last few years. And what we're seeing is a lot of romances between light workers, people on the spiritual path. We're seeing them come up a lot. And a lot of them are also long distance, which makes sense because the community is opening up online, so of course we're now communicating with people from different parts of the world. That can also be very enticing and exciting as well. Just to, people living in a different way, in a different place, different experience, and yet we're all experiencing the same thing essentially. It makes sense that this is happening. So a lot of them are, and of course they would be, long distance. That's another factor that's happening in the romance with the light workers. So quite a few are long distance, not all of them, but they're like-minded people, and we're seeing a lot of them, and it makes sense, right? Because you're like-minded, because you're having something in common, because you're forming bonds. So it makes sense that the romances are pairing up that way, and because you're going through similar things, which is the blessing, and which is also what I'm going to cover, the challenge, the overwhelming challenge, which is you're going through something similar together. And this can be such a gift. And what I really want to emphasize on this is, let's not run away so quickly from these gifts, because what we're seeing is what I've experienced, but I've really seen a lot, is these lightworker romances. They're very passionate and they're very lovely and they're very short. For the most part, there's a few that are great, that are just, really taking the opportunity, and you can hear when they talk about it and express it, and they're still in them long-term relationships. These light workers, you can see they're also indicating to us many things, including that they're being real with each other, that they're embracing what's happening, and that a lot of things are going to come up, and that they're working through it, that they're willing to see both the light and the dark and accept that in each other and in themselves, and they're working on that. And so in essence, the common theme, they embrace the challenge that comes with it. And so that's important. And so again, what I'm seeing, and I've experienced too myself, is you've got two light workers, and so they come together. It's magic at first, of course. So it's really the same as any relationship, but it's exaggerated. So why is it so exaggerated? Why is it so heated and then so short so often? Why is this happening? Well, think about it, because really, if you think about light workers or somebody on the spiritual path, well, what is it they're doing? What is it they're going through in their life? Well, what they're doing is they're looking at themselves, and they're facing their fears. They're facing their fears. They're facing their issues. They're letting go. That's part of their self-work. So there's a lot of work going on, a lot of stuff coming up. There's a general, even if in a big way they're still resisting on a lot of levels, just the fact that they're doing the things they're doing, and they're that we're exploring these things and talking to like-minded people and trying to make the world a better place. All these things is still an expression of the butterfly wanting to emerge from its cocoon. And so, of course, when you put two people like that, who first of all have so much in common, so much magic can happen, because they can enjoy so much, because they're already so on a very similar vibration and very similar ideas and concepts and beliefs, so much similarities that it just leaves immediately, first of all, a bond can form easily, but on top of that, it leaves so much room for magic to enjoy the little things, because a lot of times we can't enjoy the little moments in life and in romance, or we don't miss them because we're too much hooked up again on the details of life and all the silliness and up in the mind, and so we miss a lot of those. We catch some of them, but we miss a lot of possible magic moments. But when two light workers have so much in common, and there's such an excitement there, and then more of that is experienced together, so of course that just heightens the whole experience, and so it's quite magical and quite passionate and quite amazing and overwhelming at first. But what soon happens after that as well, so first at that point, okay, both are hooked now, both are hooked on wanting to have this experience even if they're not sure what it is. So now they're hooked, now they're in, now their hearts they're really in it, and then what happens? What happens in all relationships? But again, now it's fueled because there's so much passion and love there. That pushes all this fear, and we start to see almost immediately both will start to kind of regress just a little bit, or start bringing up their past, or start venting from or projecting from their past hurts in relationships. And conflicts start happening. Most of the time the conflicts are over absolutely nothing of major consequence. Not like we see where people actually, have kids together and they have a mortgage and they have, not those kind of things that, of course, are challenges and will shake any foundation. But in this stage, in this circumstance, you know, none of that is present yet. So what it really is just misinterpreting each other's words, and just, you know, just things coming up, and then areas that we don't, you know, that are uncomfortable, and then the communication and things, you know, misunderstandings happen, and feelings get hurt, and, you know, most of the time you don't even know what just happened. You just get swept up. But basically it starts to seemingly, again, this is all perception, and I invite you to change your perception if you're in it. But what often happens is it starts to seem dark to one or both, and it starts to just be too much. So now they have all this passion, and they want to be with this person or whatnot, but now all this stuff's coming up, and it almost seems like the past now, because we're starting to, the past things we haven't quite let go, and romances or whatnot are starting to come up, so we start to project that, and we even start to see that in the other person. So all this projecting starts to happen, but there's so much heat behind it, and I think that's the important thing to recognize here, because there is going to be more energy and more heat, both pleasant and unpleasant, when you have two people that are already on the path of self-growth, self-love, you know, all the things to do with spirituality, basically. Of course, this stuff's going to come up even stronger. So that's why I believe these are so intense, and why they're so short. Though I'd love to see that change, but you know, and I'd like to experience that as well. But we're seeing them blow up pretty quick. And so, again, this is just from my experience and from what I've noticed. I've been being in the spiritual community online. You know, I've seen a lot come and go, and a lot of times, you know, they will, in the heat of passions, will volunteer quite a bit. So you do learn quite a bit about what's going on with them, and you know, and you make a lot of friends, and they talk to you. So, you know, this isn't just my own experience. It's greatly about what I've observed and listened to and been told. But basically what seems to be happening is, well, first of all, what I would recommend, let me backtrack a bit. So what I would actually recommend, because this is also getting skipped over, what's really important, obviously it's important to be transparent. We still see a lot of light workers that aren't very transparent. What I mean by that is, some of us, we're just right there, you know, we're on Facebook, this is who I am, this is my name, this is my profession, this is what I do, and we're just sharing it all, and others, you know, they're easing into it, and we see that. And I'm not, by the way, attacking you if you have one of these. Some people feel there's legitimate reasons related to their work and other things, but we do see a lot of people that are in the communities, and we don't even know who they are. It's just, you know, sunshiny happiness Veronica, I don't know if it's making up a name, you know, these light worker Larry, you know, we don't. But that's fine. Not everybody can just. It's not easy to just put yourself completely out there. But I'm just saying that we're seeing people that it's also an indication in a lot of cases that, you know, people aren't quite ready. They're still nervous. They're still trying to figure some stuff out before they've completely, you know, let go and just. So I'm not saying right or wrong on that all the way. By the way, I'm just saying that I think it's also in a lot of cases an indication of somebody that's not quite ready to just completely share everything with the world, and that will also relate to a relationship. So there's still some holding back there. I got pretty sidetracked on that. Let me try to pull that back. So what's important though, and I don't mean contractually, when you it's not really going to be very romantic or really be about love. So I'm not suggesting this. I'm not suggesting when you become interested in something, start referring back to a laundry list you've created. If you've got lists, of what you wanted to make, I say throw it away. It's okay to want a general thing or a general experience, but yeah, let's let go of the laundry list, because then you're not shopping for love, you're shopping for an item, and it's just there's no way it's going to work. That person's not going to ever fit in the box. Even if they mate everything on the list, they're not going to fit in your box. So if you're holding a list, throw the list away. If you meet someone and you didn't even realize you had a list, but you're starting to constantly just focus on all these wonderful traits of theirs and how it's just like the perfect, yeah, that's great to appreciate them, but to let them go as a list, try to really just love them, because then that person can't hold up to that, and then what inevitably happens is another list starts to form. Human beings, we do have a tendency to take things for granted. So when someone's fantastic in every way you've ever wanted, as soon as they start to be human, then everything seems wrong, and a list forms of things where they suck. Yeah, let's try to avoid mentally making those lists, and just see each other. And yes, we bring fantastic things to the table, and yes, we each have our challenges. But don't bring the list, and certainly don't set out a contract. So that's not what I'm suggesting. Sit down and go through, trying to figure out if you're going to pick that person and go further. If that's the mentality kind of thing, yeah, you don't want to do that. But what it is important, when you're already feeling it, that's it, something's happening here and you want to explore it, before it gets too heated and too the bonds become even tighter, it is good to be really transparent and clear. That's why I got sidetracked on the name. Transparent and clear. So I'm still seeing a lot of light workers that actually aren't very transparent in their dealings. So I've done one or two posts, I don't jump on that too much, but really check yourself. If we're going to change the world, you should be completely upfront in all your dealings. And if you have to withhold information, or if you're still finding yourself lying or fibbing, you want to check that, because is that really going to make change in the world? How are we going to make change in the world? That is the world. So be completely yourself and authentic, and don't hold back or try to work on that. It behooves you, believe me, and it behooves us. That's how we're going to make change. So, don't. Still, we see even a lot of light workers, they still have, some of them have some agendas, some of it's related to, they make a profession at it, which is fine. I'm not saying you can't make a profession at your light working, but I'm saying we see some that it's really becomes about that, and that they've missed the point, and I'm sure they'll come back, but they've lost sight a little bit, and you can see they're just starting to maybe they're focusing too much on it as a business, or we see other ones that they have trouble sharing. So they're embracing it all, they're sharing in bits, but they're still, they still like to be very private, and we see all these different things. But what I'm basically saying is, it really does behoove us to be completely open and transparent in all our dealings in every aspect of our life. Yeah, some things we want to keep private, but still, just be fully you and what you're feeling, whatever that is. It behooves you. It behooves you. It behooves us all. If you don't know what behoove means, it benefits us all. So when this light worker romance starts up, you definitely, or any romance, of course this applies to everybody, don't start negotiating, don't bring a list, but you definitely want to talk about general wants. And it will come up naturally anyways. But pay attention. And really still keep it light, still stay in the magic, but be open enough to have a two-way, non-threatening conversations about it. Because what we're not seeing right off the bat is where a lot of them are not working out, is first of all, a lot of them by default are long distance. So this is important. If you're feeling romantically towards people that are not in your country, get it straight now. If you feel someone, if you meet someone that you really want to experience, you have to be willing to travel, to do what it takes, and to consider that if it worked out long term, one of you might have, or both of you might have to move. So it's good to be real with yourself about that. A lot of people, they'll say, well, I don't know about long distance, yet they'll jump into one. And that's all they've gone as far as I don't know. Well, get that I don't know straight, because you'll save a lot of time and energy and hurt feelings and a lot of other stuff. And maybe you're not ready right now, but you're working up to it, and you will be ready one day. Well, best to get cracking on that right now and not let a relationship end just because of geography. I mean, it's fine if it is. I'm just saying, but be straight with yourself first about, are you willing to have a long-distance relationship? It's important. Because otherwise it'll come up, it might come up a little bit at the beginning, but then both are so swept up that they'll skip over it. It'll come back again in the end, and in the end that'll be a good chance it'll be a deciding factor. One or both will not be willing to make the move or whatever. And of course all now the other stuff that's come in and the challenges, they might throw that in as well as but you know, geography doesn't have to be a factor. People, it's fine if it is for you, then just be clear on it. But from my perspective, geography is not a factor. Romances used to happen from across the globe since back when man first started to travel globally. So people used to travel, you know, it would take them months or years, you know, just from corresponding, never even seeing a person, just a letter, they would travel to meet that love. I mean, wow. So I'm just saying, what we've actually done, now we've gotten quite lazy in a sense. Now it's so easy actually to travel and so easy to actually do compared to the old world. And now yet it's such a huge factor, people aren't willing to do it. And again, that's fine, but let's establish it. But also look at it. Look at it really. I mean, if you really want to have that special, if you really met someone so special, really, you're going to let geography and just day-to-day stuff, all the stuff that changes anyways and could change. You could end up moving anyways, and end up in the same country you weren't willing to go to before. You don't know. You know, there's so many possibilities. So when we narrow it down and say, no, I'm not willing to, I think you're limiting yourself. But that's fine. That's just maybe there are some factors that really just can't do it. Well, then just be clear on that. Be clear on that from the start before it gets too far. Because then it just becomes, we want to be together, but we can't. Well, yes, you can if you really want to, but do you really want to? So get the geography out of the way for, you know, whether you're willing to have a long distance. Be clear on that before you start getting deeply emotionally connected with someone long distance. It's good for both of you. So get that straight. And then just general wants. Again, not negotiating or anything, but just to see if you're both generally going. If one wants to go off and do environmental work across the world and wants to live out in the country, and the other person is a city person and doesn't really want that kind of life, and you know, and just big things like that, just would never want to live in the country, and the other one's their whole life's been pulling. You know, it's just good to know that. Maybe there could be a compromise in the middle, but I'm just saying, so I'm not saying that has to kill the deal, but it's good to work that out at the start. Or just not work it out, but just kind of put it out there. Because if they're too extreme, if there's too many things, then you'll just start to see it right away. So again, it's just more of, it's good to generally get those wants out, just so you're not basically wasting each other's time. I mean, if you want to go through all that, but I mean, if there's in some cases they're just really extreme, they want totally different things. Yes, they seem to have a lot in common at first, but then there's some major wants that aren't there, that aren't even close to the same. So it's just good. I know, you know, some might think, well, it just spoils it. Well, you know, it's up to you, whatever feels right to you, but it's going to come out anyways. And so it's best to, especially in such a heated with like-minded people with so much passion and love and energy, it's going to be so intense and it's going to get so deep. So it's just good to see first, is there a general platform that we could generally, you know, build on here? Are we generally going in the same direction? It doesn't have to be exactly the same, you know, not at all. You can still be totally different in a lot of different ways, but are you generally going the same direction, generally? You generally would like to have the same kind of life, you know, generally. So it's good. It's not a major thing, but it's good to get that out of the, you know, be honest and upfront. Otherwise, that gets muddled in with all the misunderstandings later and all these other, and then the wants come up at the end, and so yeah, you know, get those semi-practical things out of the way, but you know, get them on the table at least at the first. I would put too much energy, just you know, but you know, get them out at the beginning, and then you can let them go if they seem pretty compatible, you know. Then you can go on. Don't focus. Don't make the rest of your relationship about now getting that stuff straight. Just put it on the table, and then if it seems, you know, not too far off, generally similar, or could, you know, a lot of leeway there, because you know you can compromise, and things change anyway. So if it generally looks right, then yeah, then you put it aside. Don't keep focusing now. Let's fix them all. Let's get them just right. No, push them aside and get back to your just being with each other and just knowing, and be open and honest and transparent. Don't hold back. But here's the thing: you are going to bring up whether you're holding back or not, and if you're holding back, that's one of the things it'll bring up. It's going to be intense. It's going to be amazingly, we hear it when they talk about twin flames, but it's the same thing, however you want to label it. People do this anyways. It's going to bring up. That's what we're attracting, certain experiences and certain people into our lives. So they're there by design. We're there by design, but being both in the spiritual path, it's going to, and working through stuff actively and with purpose, of course, more things are going to come up. And so I encourage you to keep trying to see it as a gift. A lot of times one or both will stop seeing the magic anymore because we get that human amnesia, and all they're focusing on now is this is just too much, and this is just too much shit coming up, and you know, angry emails or Skype conversations, whatever, however you're contacting your telephone starts to get too heated, and old patterns start to bring up. That's your time to really work on yourself and work on it, and you can do it as a team. So I highly recommend. What we often see is it is good to pull back if things are getting heated and you get lost in words, and definitely you want to always take time out for stillness. But if you're going to take a time out, take time outs for stillness, not to stew in the mind, because then you're just reinforcing whatever the story is in your head. You're going to come back, and it's just going to continue or be worse. So definitely, if you got to take time, always in all things, step aside, stillness. But in a relationship, if you're really in there with this person, make sure that you're doing that and not running away. What we're really seeing, and this is the big thing, what we're we're seeing it so obvious in the light worker circles because there's so much energy there. It's so much more exaggerated, the experience, than what we see in the everyday world. But it happens in the everyday world. But we're seeing it really big time in the light worker romances because everything's exaggerated and intensified. And so what we're seeing is a reverting back to fight or flight. This is important. This is the big thing I'm seeing and I've experienced. We need to break out of this if we're going to ascend these things. That's back to the older mentality. That's back to that's more of the mind and more reactive and less of the heart. So it's natural, it's going to happen, but you know, if you can spot it in yourselves, catch yourselves, try to avoid the fight or flight, because that's what's happening. All this stuff's coming up, and then they're reverting, and then a war of words start to take place, and misunderstandings and hurt feelings, and then running away, and then just one or both walking off, and then a time space happens, and they're just doing it on. They figure, I'm going to figure it out myself. I got to figure. Yeah, you always. I mean, you're not going to be together 24 hours a day, so when you're off on your own, you're going to be thinking about it, and that is your time to take stillness. That is your time to look inward and see, what am I doing? Because you always want to be looking back at you, say, what's going on with me? What am I doing? What am I feeling? What am I... So you definitely want to do that, and you'll do that anyways, but if you're constantly, and it's always first after a fight or whatever, and then you have to run off, and then it's always, I got to work on myself. I got to. you're in. Do it together. That's the opportunity. That's the opportunity to do it together. So, and you hear this with people that are successful at it. They work through their stuff together. So if you're not willing to work it out together, if you're not willing to go through, if you just want all the hugs and kisses and the sunshine, and again, it's good to get to know your wants. So if you're someone who doesn't want to get too deep in a relationship, that's fine. But you want to have experience, then again, maybe put that on the table right away and get that clear in yourself, so maybe you'll attract that. But if you've fallen deep with someone and now you're, especially if you're into the I love yous and all this other stuff, the romantic I love yous, then you're already in it. So the best thing is try not to see it as a problem. That's the problem but try not to see it as so much as a problem as an opportunity. Because instead we just see it as too overwhelming, and we'll see one or both basically just spiraling in fight or flight, and inevitably one just says that's it, and then they flee altogether. So embrace the opportunity. I think the fact that these amazing opportunities are happening so intense and so short shows us that we could take more of an opportunity on that. We really could. Why are they so short? Right? If we got two people that are really with a lot of love towards themselves and towards the world and want to make a new world, and that are so like-minded, and so why should that be even shorter, more intense than the rest? We've just gone over why, but I think, again, it benefits us to try to, give them more of a chance and realize they're actually just a really intense opportunity for growth. And who knows what could happen but you don't know if you bail before you even find out. So give them a real chance and try to work through it together, and see it as even when it's going through, celebrate when you both made a breakthrough together or reflected something and finally realized because of each other that, oh, I was doing this and you were doing that. Really celebrate that. Celebrate it as a team, as a partnership. That'll help bring you together. Try to think in terms, because that's what you're doing. If you want, again, get what you want clear at the start. But if you don't just want a casual experience, if you want something more than that, well, then that's what you're going to get. So why avoid it? So why then go back to individual mentality? What you really want is a form of a union, a merging. So explore that. Still, you want to be yourself, of course. You'll always be yourself. But, just figure out, do you really want to do that? Because that's what you're going to create in these romances. And so embrace them. And try to feel and think your way as because you are creating something together regardless at all times. But if you can celebrate even when the tough times, when you've worked through all this stuff, celebrate that together. Really celebrate. Say, we did it. That was great that we did this. This is amazing. Okay, we just had 3 days of hell with each other. But isn't this amazing? We were able to do this. Really celebrate that. And remind yourself that even those darker times, they're gifts. And they're only dark because that's our perception, because they were messy. That's what I like to look at them. I don't really see them as dark, but I can see how people could. But I see them just as messy. But celebrate them, and try, if you really want to experience a union with this person, then embrace that and experience everything with them. Experience all the great stuff, yes, but be open. Let them know all, express your fears, express your sadness, express your frustration, be authentic. Even, if you're getting a bit cuckoo at times, with stuff coming up, that's fine. You can always apologize later and thank you for your patience. But be patient towards one another, because it's going to happen on both sides. Be patient. And just be willing to see them, both their light and their shadow, and be in. Decide if you want in, and if you both really want in on this, then fully experience it. as a couple. But what often happens is they go back to individuality. And really, what it's two individuals that are slamming up together in good ways and in bad ways. But that's what the bond starts to break. The union, the commitment to that union, of just to experience that union of whatever it is and let it be. That starts to break, or wasn't really common or established at the beginning. So I'm kind of really rambling here because it's a big topic. But that's basically what I've noticed and I've even experienced is, first of all, let's look at it for what it is. Yes, we're seeing a lot of romances in the spiritual circles, like-minded circles. And we're seeing, of course, a lot of them are long distance, not all of them, but that's very common. And we're seeing they're very amazing and passionate and intense and romantic and just incredible. And we're seeing them also become quite intense and then fizzle out, basically, or blow up. Really, we're seeing them blow up, and very quickly. So let's acknowledge that and just see that, okay, well, why is that happening? So it makes sense it would happen that way, because again, we're all opening up to ourselves and to life and really being present and awake in life. So that's going to bring up that's really living life, and that's going to bring up a lot of stuff. You know, when we're earlier in lives, when we're more what we call as the asleep state, yeah, you can compromise more and you can get along with people more easily in romances too, because a lot's not being said. So they still end, but there's just years of stuff that was never expressed, never ended. But with people on the spiritual path, everything's more upfront, everything's more intense. There's more passion there, and there's more. There's just something really happening. The butterfly coming from its, merging from its cocoon, but before it does it, it has to struggle. So it's not a mild experience, and these aren't mild experiences that we're feeling as people on a spiritual path. So of course our romances, and especially when we're so like-minded and so similar, we're going to reflect and project, and it's going to be very intense. So it makes total sense. So basically I'm saying there's nothing wrong going on, just let's see that's why. And we're seeing, though, that they're very short. So again, if you're considering being in one, or you're in one, or you were in one, then mull this over as well. Reflection's good, but, again, get straight what you want first of all. Do you want long-term, short-term travel? Just the basics. Don't get too detailed. Don't make life about... Because love should just, should really be beyond all that anyways. Labels and expectations and things you want. But generally, still, life is about experiencing things you want. So generally get that straight first. That'll help. And then you'll attract more of that. So if you don't want a long-term commitment of any kind, well then if you're really clear with that and comfortable with that, and you're starting to vibrate in that, you'll attract that, as opposed to attracting someone who wants more of a commitment, etc. So just know that this is normal if you're going through it, and it's very common, and that yes, that if they can blow up very quickly. And again, my only recommendation there is, try to recognize what's really happening, and try to really embrace it, and try to embrace it together, because that's the whole point. Why go so deep into a romantic union with someone if you're not really willing to experience all of that with them, right? And try to catch yourselves when you're doing the fight or flight. Then you definitely know then yeah, you should step back, both of you, away for a while, take some time to stillness, but then come back and say, do we really want to go through this together? Are you willing? Get that straight, and if you are, then go for it. And the more you work that kind of stuff out, then the more you can just enjoy the little things and the magic, because that's really what it's about anyways. We just want to get to know them. We just want to enjoy all the lovely magical moments with them and just be. But but we can't cherry pick, you know what I mean? There's going to be others. We got to be willing to accept their shadows. We got to be willing to be in there and work with it, with them, and not separately. We see a lot of light workers, a lot of people in general. They say they want a relationship, they want to be in, but when they're in, they're still in very individual way of being, where they're still very much up in the mind, and they're very still in identity, and they still want all of their freedoms, and they're worried about someone taking their freedom, you know what I mean? You know, work through that if you can with them or on your own, but, you know, how are you going to find that special union or create that special union if you're still completely riddled with fear about being controlled? Because you're going to resist it then. You're going to resist every part of it. So get clear what you want. And if you want to experience the intensity of a romance with another light worker, then step into it with an open heart and be prepared emotionally that you're going to experience things that are so magical and so amazing. It's going to make your toe curls. Am I back in dog words? Make your toes curl. And you're going to learn things, and you're going to grow in ways you could have never imagined. It's going to be so magical and amazing, but it's also going to be really intense, and shadows are going to come up, and old patterns will come up. And I embrace you, since you're there anyways, wanting to create something with this person, to work on those together and create as a team, as a partnership. Work on it. Yes, step back when you need to for stillness when you're not working it out together, but then get back and do it together. Do it together. And now it still may not work out, but I mean, isn't it worth trying? Isn't it worth, again, we're seeing them so intense and so short, and it seems to me just by their nature there's more opportunity there. There's more opportunity, even if they don't work out long term. More opportunity for magic, more opportunity for more growth, more opportunity, endless opportunities. So I think I'll wrap this up now. So that's basically what I really wanted to point out, that yes, romances are happening like crazy in the spiritual circles, and they're going to continue to, and they're going to be fantastic and wonderful and be, beyond anything you've experienced, and they're also going to be really, really difficult and challenging, because that's part of this whole thing. And so just know that going in, be completely open and transparent in what you want. Be open and honest and transparent with who you're experiencing with this, and open your heart to really experiencing it with them and going through it with them, and giving it a real chance to experience it further. And and then I think if you do that, even if they end, we'll see them less exploding at the end. So I think that's when we'll start to see that happening, is when we see more of them on good terms. So even that would be nice to see, that because a lot of times they blow up, and then even a friendship's gone, and that's a shame. That's really a shame. I mean, it has to be, but so yeah, let's just be aware of that, not be afraid of that. It's just good to know what's happening when it's happening, and then there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually quite amazing, I think. But if we can collectively see it that way, then we might embrace it a little more. And then, like I said, we might see some more long-term and some wonderful unions form. And if not, maybe we'll just see, less of them blowing up, and maybe they'll get a little more out of it, give a little more opportunity to learn and grow and enjoy. So don't be afraid of it, but just be aware that seems to be what's happening. That's from my experience and from what I've seen, and it's happening all the time. But romance is a wonderful thing. So if you want to dive in, it's a wonderful experience. But be open to it, because it's a full experience. It's not just a one-sided experience. You're not going to find the romance, never, where it's just completely always easy. It's not going to happen, especially if you're on a journey, spiritual journey of self-discovery and growth. No. How are you going to grow in such a relationship? You're going to attract opportunities to grow, and vice versa. So enjoy your romances. Try not to take them so seriously. We get so wrapped up in them, into the illusions. Just enjoy. I'll end that with this. Just enjoy it and relax a little bit. Relax, everybody. Relax. We're here. You're doing it. Just enjoy. Relax. Calm down. Calm down. And enjoy your romances and enjoy your day of romance on the 14th. Love and light.